Provinces 10 years of his life documenting the endangered spotted owl in their habitat. The result is a brilliant new book. It's called Spotted Owls: Shadows in an Old Growth Forest, and the author of the book, Jared Hobbs, is joining us in studio this morning, and there's a look at the cover. Jared, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is really a labor of love for you. This is 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
Where did it start? I've read it, but I think it's such a great story that you should tell us about back in 1997.
Sure, yeah. I mentioned in the preface, it was back in 1997. I was surveying owls for the BC government at the time, and it was one fateful night in May. I saw my first spotted owl. We called it in as part of a survey, and it gradually approached us over the course of about 5 minutes, and then flew across the road, landed right in front of me, and just looking to its eyes, the moment I looked into its eyes, I actually said to my partner, Dan, with me at the time, I said, Dan, I've got to do a coffee table book on this species, and that's where it began.
That's incredible. So that was the goal in that moment.
Yeah, in that moment.
Was to put together a book like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just so enchanted with the beauty of the owl, I thought I had to share that. So
let's take a look. We have several photos from the book to share with you, and talk to us about where you went and the places that you saw, because we're talking remote areas that you accessed by helicopter, and just some incredible spots.
Yeah, well, as part of my survey work for the government, I had to go and use a helicopter to access all of the most remote drainages in the sort of their range in BC. And some of the drops, you'd fly in, and it'd take you 3 to 5 days to hike out. So you'd get dropped in with your gear, and you would hike out, do all your hiking at night. So you're surveying for the owls at night, and then I would go back on my own time after and get the shots that I needed for the book. So that was an ordeal in itself, carrying that heavy camera gear everywhere.
I bet, absolutely. The photos are just stunning. This must represent an exercise in patience, waiting for that right shot.
Oh, it was. There was actually that shot there, the last one that panned. That was 3 days of waiting in a misty drizzle, just waiting for the chick to actually come out of the nest and just poke her head up. So yeah, a lot of patience. But but it's a fun thing to be doing. You really enjoy it while you're out there.
And when you're passionate about it, and you clearly are.
Oh yeah. I mean, those are the moments that keep you motivated. Is the time you spend sitting with the owls in the forest. It's just gorgeous.
I read that it's not that long ago that we really didn't know that much about these owls. What do we know about them today? What can you tell us?
Oh, well, it started with Eric Forstmann back in the 1960s. He wrote the foreword for the book, and he's sort of the Jane Goodall of the owl world. And back then, he asked the question, what is our forest management? What is the impact of that on this species? And since then, the spotted owl's become the most studied owl in the world. There's hundreds of peer-reviewed papers, and there's almost nothing that isn't known about this species. So it's wonderful to have that science to turn to answer your questions. But in BC, we started sort of learning more about the owls as recently as sort of 1992, started monitoring their trends. And it's been a worrisome story. We've gone from 500 pairs historically down to just 5 pairs today. So it's, I know you don't have to be a biologist to know the species is in dire straits.
Wow, so, that is extremely worrisome. When we talk about the spotted owl, I know that phrase, war in the woods, comes up. What does that mean?
Well, basically the spotted owl controversy was a perfect polarization, if you like, of an industry with economic incentive or interest in resource extraction, so logging old growth forests, and an environmentally concerned community that was concerned about the state of the environment. And the spotted owl was the indicator. It was at the center of the war in the woods, in that it indicates to us the state of the forest ecosystem. And its decline is really carrying a message as an indicator species. It's telling us that the state of the old growth ecosystem is indeed heavily compromised. We've lowered the resilience so much now that this species can no longer survive. I mean, its fate in BC is pretty obvious. And throughout its range, it's been declining, although those declines have been arrested somewhat by habitat protection in the States.
So you feel, Jared, this is the bellwether for a larger picture?
Oh, absolutely. The spotted owl is sort of the banner species that we use because it's charismatic and it attracts public attention. But biologists know that there's many other species not as charismatic, like salamanders and lichens and stuff, that are also suffering sort of a similar fate. So
what can people do? I know that we will be inundated with people wanting to know more about this, and we're going to give some information in just a minute here about where they can get in touch with you. But what do people need to know? How can they help? How can they get involved if they want to do that?
Well, it really comes down to a legislative level. That's where we need to be able to enforce protection of the forest resources in a more diverse way.
Do we do a good enough job of that now in BC, do you feel?
It's hard for me to comment given my position with the BC government, but there are certainly challenges to what we're facing now with respect to resource management in BC. It's a long, slow process, but I think the thing people can do is to become informed,
Right.
to learn more about what our government does to monitor and to protect the environment on their behalf, and to basically be a bit more involved in that, and be cautious when you're voting. Look at what the platform agenda is and what kind of environmental sort of agenda there is behind the party.
Well, certainly congratulations on the book. It is truly spectacular. And thank you again, Jared, for coming this morning and spending some time with us and sharing.
Great. Well,
we want to put up some information here. You're appearing, you're going to be busy. You're going to be at the Westman Memorial Library between 2 and 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then tomorrow, a series of presentations and signing the book at Grouse Mountain. So we've got the times there up on your screen. And this was lovely of you to do. Thank you so much. Jared's kindly agreed to autograph the copy of the book that we have here in studio, and we're going to give it away. It really is spectacular. The 30th email will win the book. Weekend News at globaltv.com. There's the book again. And where can we find the book? Spotted Owls, Shadows in an Old Growth Forest. Where can we pick it up?
Actually, it's widely available. Chapters, Amazon, Indigo in the States, but throughout BC, it's on the ferries. It's pretty much any major bookstore.
Excellent.